SkillStruct presents.
Hey everyone, welcome to the SkillStruct Presents Tech Series, where today I've got a friend of mine who's a tech consultant, Richard from Deloitte. To be honest, I just basically texted him and asked him if he can come, and he's pulled up, and so we're here. So Richard, welcome to the SkillStruct Presents Tech Series.
Thank you so much, brother. Good to be here. Thank you for having me, man. It is an honor every time I'm asked.
Nah, man, that's what's up, man. And I guess, yeah, like I said, the theme of today is tech consultancy. And so we're going to dive into that, all that good stuff. But first question, how has the pandemic affected you and the way you're working?
Oh, that's a good question. So I think my mindset has really shifted since February last year. Because I remember when we originally got told to pack our bags, I was up in Glasgow on a project when we got shut down.
Oh, okay.
So it was literally, we went up on the Monday, we got an email that said, yo, you might have to come back home early this week. We're gonna let you know on Tuesday. Tuesday, I left my hotel, went to the client site, still expecting, nah, it's going to be nothing. We got a message at 12 p.m. Listen, pack your bag and go home. And just like that, I had to make my way, had to change flights, had to suddenly make my way down. And in the first few weeks, it was sweet. It was sweet. I was able to exercise. I was waking up on time. I was eating a good breakfast, got my project work done, keeping everyone happy, finished bang on 5, doing exercise. I was feeling like, yeah, you know what? I can deal with this. I must have got to July, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm not feeling this anymore. It's hard because people expect me to always be on. I actually changed projects, so I ended up on one that was basically a round-the-clock project. I don't do very many of them, but my day could start as early as 7. I think the latest I finished was 3 a.m. on that project.
And what makes it round-the-clock?
So it was because of the delivery deadlines. So it was really tight. Had to deliver what normally would have been a 12-month project. Had to deliver it in 6 weeks.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Round the clock.
Peak. And then from August, I got married, and all of a sudden, priorities changed. And it was tough because, like, the thing I used to love the most about consulting was that jet-setting lifestyle, living in hotels, you know, it's the fast life, dinners, this. Now, I can't think of anything I want less. I'm loving being able to spend time with my friends, my family. Like, knowing that working from home means that when my wife gets back from work, we can just spend time together. That suddenly, for me, biggest priority is, and I don't think I can go back to the old lifestyle of, actually, you know what, I'm saying that now. It could be, we're still in the first year. It could get to a year and a day, and I'm like, you know what, I need my hotel points back.
Yeah. Is it Hilton or what are we talking?
Oh, I mixed it all up. I got all the points.
Okay.
The Marriott points. The Radisson points. I was everywhere.
You're out there, yeah. No, I was loyal to Hilton. Shout out to Hilton. I was getting my Hilton points up when I was in the game, as it were. So yeah, no, I feel you on that, man. You know, it's funny. Actually, so many people tell me that actually when they get married or like even getting kids, like the lifestyle like causes them to kind of take a step back and be like, you know, because most of them are from London, so they're like, I don't really want to out their project. I just want to stay in London, sort of thing. So I'm guessing that's the feeling, the sentiments you have as well. Then, like,
it was, yeah. I mean, back in my younger days, it was all about being away because that was expense lifestyle as well. So when you're away from home, like you have the hotel, you have a dinner allowance, you have travel costs. If you're in London, we don't have that because obviously this is your home office. So when I was still young and wild and single, it was just, that was lovely. Because, you know, keep within the budget and you're living sweet. You're still living a lavish life and it's not costing you anything. Lovely. But yeah, like you say, as soon as there's someone that you're looking forward to coming home to, different, whole thing changes. There's no amount of room service that I'd swap for it.
No, I hear you, but I hear you because like I know this one person I'm thinking of, like out there, just out there, every client engagement, you'll be there, got settled, all of that, ghost. Don't see him for days. I barely see him. I think the last time I saw him was actually at like one of the Christmas parties that we had. And I was like, oh, okay, so you're still here. Them one's there. Like, yeah, I'm still here, just wifed up, you know, got a kid on the way. And just like, fair enough, man. When it's a lifestyle, isn't it? Like a lot of people like get invested in the consulting world because of the lifestyle, actually. So talking about all of these things, then how would you describe what being in a tech consultancy is?
I think I really like this question because it is one of the most common questions we get asked. What is consulting, right? And at its very heart, plain and simple, consulting is just problem solving, right? And the different types of consulting, so whether we're talking about strategy, whether we're talking about analytics, operations, human capital, or tech, it's just about what you're using to solve those problems. So if we think about what I used to do, I specifically worked within tech transformations. So if I go to a client, they normally would have a system that they're currently using, whether that's for finance, whether that's a customer-facing platform, anything like that, and they're trying to go to a new one. So our thing is, client's problem is we want to get a better client-facing wealth management platform or a better suite of systems that we use within a certain government department, right? That's kind of how we work in general. My thing was all about how we make sure they get from A to B without breaking. Because it's really easy to try to go from A to B, but the reason why you get consultants in to help is because it's also really easy to break everything. And then that's it, your whole system done out. You can't work, no money. I think perfect example is, I can't remember whether it was NatWest or Lloyd's TSB a few years back, where people just couldn't access their accounts, or when they were logging in, it was connecting to someone else's account. That's the kind of project where they would have tried to shift systems in their back end and something's gone wrong in that process. My job is to make sure I don't end up like that.
Okay. So you don't want to be on the headlines like you get blamed for a certain project. So
no, sir. The lack of publicity, especially in the type of projects I did, because mine weren't, I have colleagues who worked on more client-facing stuff, like at Deloitte, we were one of the teams that was actually helping to put in the original BBC iPlayer. There's teams that do that. That's the kind of headline we love. The stuff that I did, which is more back-end and like in-house, you want to hear nothing. If you hear nothing about it except in the Financial Times, mwah, perfect.
You're doing something right.
Good day.
Cool. And so I guess right now, like this is when you're in demand, you're working and all of that. One concept that people may not know, not being in the consulting world, is the quote unquote bench. A lot of consultancies have different terminologies. Some people call it the beach. I've heard some consultancies say, I'm off to the beach, which actually sounds nicer, actually, but I think most people know it traditionally as the bench. So why don't you talk to us about the bench?
So the bench is mythical. Depending on how long you've been on or off it, it's mythical. Like my projects used to last, I think on average, I'd be on my project for a year and a half was the longest one I did. So the bench is just not being on a project. And if you can manage to get just a few weeks of bench time in between, it's sweet. It's the equivalent, it's the working equivalent of treating yourself to a full body massage, because you've not got the client pressures, you've not got deadlines. At worst, you might be asked to help out on a bid or two when we're trying to sell new work. But apart from that, that's your chance to de-stress and kind of reset before you go back into project on mode. The reason why I say it depends on how long you've been off or on it, because everyone wants a bit of bench time. Nobody wants too much bench time. Because that's when you start to get to the point of stressing out again. I run a course with work, which talks about the stress curve, and a lot of people know the right-hand side of it, which is when you're overworked and trying to find the balance of how to maximize your ideal point of stress when you're working, but people don't think about the underworking. So, like I said, those first couple of weeks can be nice because you're like, oh, nice, I'm rested, I'm recovering, my mental capacity is increasing again. But if that 2 weeks starts to turn into 4 weeks, you can hit boredom where you're like, okay, I need something to do now. I need something just to keep me ticking over. If that 4 weeks turns to 6 to 8 weeks, you start to ask yourself the question of, wait, why am I on the bench for so long? Is it that people don't, is it that there's no work, or there is work and I'm just not being asked to go on it? Especially if you see other people who are on the bench with you kind of jumping straight back in the game. And in your head, you're like, put me in, coach, put me in. I'm good, I'm rested, I'm ready. And that can be another source of stress. And actually longer term, it's one of the key drivers of people actually getting disenfranchised with working in a particular place and looking to move on, because you go into work because you want to do the work. You don't want to end up just on the back burner, especially from a performance management and promotion perspective. Underutilization is a big issue. It tells a story of other people's perceptions of your ability. And what you don't want is to be the person who's perceived as not being as valuable as the others.
Yeah, because there's another key term as well I'm gonna throw out there. Chargeability is a huge thing in organizations, especially consultancies. If you're not chargeable, then it's kind of like, yeah, it's that clock time, like, you know, you got that pressure on you. It's just like, yeah, okay, you're not chargeable. It's been, okay, like you said, couple weeks here and there. Okay, cool. When you get into that 4, 5, and 6, it's kind of like, what's going on here? So talk about like the importance of chargeability, or what, in terms of companies putting importance on chargeability when it comes to consultancies.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the most simple terms, like, businesses are there to make money. It doesn't matter whether you are a bank, if you're a corner shop, if you are a cinema, right? The environment we live in, the economy we live in, is about making as much money as you can. If you have people on the bench, from a business perspective, what that means is we are paying your salary, you're a cost, but you are not bringing us in any money. So that's where the term chargeability comes in, right? How much of the time are we charging you out to a client, right? And if we are spending money on your salary and nothing's coming in, that's an issue. But then from a performance perspective, so if we flip it back to the individual, there's also that question, right? There's an expectation, depending on what grade you're at, of you being on projects, delivering work for a certain percentage of your time. That will depend, like I said, on what grade you are in, because the more senior you go, the priority shifts from just being on work and delivering it to actually selling it and starting to grow the business. But it all comes into the equation, right? Even when you're not charging work, selling work means you're still bringing money in, right? So there will be, some of them are official targets, some of them are unofficial targets, but it is one of those things that gets looked at in terms of your performance over a performance year or whatever the performance cycle is in the company.
Yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, thank you for explaining that. I think, yeah, spot on that. And I think, yeah, I can attest to that as well. When you're not chargeable, if you're not bringing anything in, then there is a pressure, not just, you know, yourself being a natural problem solver, you want to do something, but the company's kind of looking at you as a liability rather than an asset, in the sense that you're not helping the company grow. And talking about actually focusing back onto the bench, if someone has been on the bench for a while, have you ever been in situations where you're either having to encourage those people or give them some game in terms of how to prioritize their time in terms of learning or whatever to get ultimately back off the bench, but more importantly, just how to utilize that space to just keep them motivated?
Yeah. I think this is a super important part of the game. And I'm really glad you called it that, because that's what it is, right? A lot of the time we talk about progression and promotion as if it's a purely merit-based system. It's not. There's a whole game to progressing, both in a specific firm, in an industry as a whole, and in your career. And the main aspect of that game and how you be successful in it is who you have on your team, right? Every career is a team game. There are going to be people who think they can rely on their individual brilliance, their personal successes to just see them jump through, but it does not work like that, right? Throughout your career, you need to have people around you who will speak your name in rooms that you're not in, who will support you at the times when you're not strong, and who will back you when you're going into a difficult situation. And that includes when you're on the bench, right? It is all good and well doing learning, doing the personal development pieces. Keep doing it, right? Those skills are going to make you more valuable. But if we're talking about the best player on the team, right? Let's look back. If I'm sticking with my team metaphor here. Let's look back to Euro 2016. Ronaldo, best player on the Portugal team, but the moment he was injured and he was on the bench, he could do nothing to influence the game. No matter how good he is personally, because he's there and he wasn't on the pitch, that value was essentially worthless. So all of the learning and development you do is good as long as it's preparing you for getting back in the game. When you're talking about how you then get back in the game, it is that case of starting to network, right? This is a term you're going to hear a lot in not just consulting and professional services in your career altogether. And what good networking looks like is making real, genuine, authentic connections, right? Getting to know people, getting to know what their interests are, getting to know where their values lie, getting to know what they need as much as you sharing what you need, right? Bad networkers are the types who just like, right, I'm going to look purely upwards. I'm going to collect as many business cards as I can. I'm only going to talk to people who are in a position where I need something from them. That is a terrible approach, right? When you're looking to build your career and get off the bench and back in the game, look around you on your level, look more junior to you and look more senior to you, and understand what they need just as much as what you need, right? Because that's where you get those conversations that's like, oh, hey, so what are you interested in? Oh, I work mainly in financial services, I'll talk about myself, right? Back in back in the last few years. It was financial services doing those tech transformations. Oh, amazing. That's also what I'm trying to get onto. I'm currently on the bench. Do you have any work or bids or non-client deliverables? So in Deloitte, we call it practice development, that you need support with, right? It's that, do you need me to help you with something? In that, you build those relationships, you build the connections so that someone can go, either that very same person will say, awesome, I've got this opportunity coming up. I need someone at your grade. Are you still free? Perfect, come on to it. Or they'll be doing that whole speaking your name in a room when you're not there and say, oh, hey, third person, I heard you've got an opportunity coming up in this space on this kind of project. Are you still looking for someone to fill that role that you had? You are? Brilliant, because I happen to know someone. Right? That networking piece that takes out the selfishness and makes it a proper relationship is how you move from on the bench back into the game, and how you continue to develop your career going forward.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's one phrase that I always heard when I was in like the consulting game is your network. Your net worth is, no, let me not butcher this. Your network is your net worth. And that's basically to say, basically, you can only grow as much as your network, really, both professionally and from a career standpoint, just so much is given to you if you have a good, strong network. Not about merit per se, just having a good, strong network. Honestly, that's, even I've been through those purely because I'm just a name in someone's head, like the default person. Oh, Michael's on the bench, for example. Let's bring him on. I worked with him X, Y, Z, and he was great, for example. Let's bring him on. So, like, honestly, having a good network is definitely, one of the most important things you can do, working in general, but definitely in a consultancy firm.
And I think on that, it's so important. I saw a tweet this morning that I loved, where they said so many of us are used to this myth of hard work and kind of digging down into the dirt and pulling yourselves up, that we refuse to acknowledge just how much of our success is down to luck, a good network, and structures that are in place to help us succeed. And that for me is such an important thing to recognize. You can be as good as you like, you can be as hardworking as you like, but for every element of success that you have, there is a component of it that is luck. There's a component of it that is grace and favor from the people around you. And there's a component of it of just the strategic and structural supports you've had coming up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's a myth, like you're saying, like this idea of a meritocracy where you just, move on merit, succeed on merit. I know some great hardworking individuals in my previous consultancy firm, for example, but in general anyway, that work very hard, but just are always going to be at the same level because all they do is they do their work and they do it well. But outside of that, nothing, no networking, no nothing. And younger people will just progress above them again and again because, like you say, like it's all about how you maneuver your networking skills. That will take you a lot further than just working quote unquote hard. Not to say don't work hard, but work smart, obviously.
Yes,
definitely.
Yeah, you need to combine it for sure.
Definitely. No, I agree. And moving slightly on to, you were talking about transformation a lot and, going on a project. And I guess one thing people, they may fantasize about a project is you do a project and let's say it's like 6 months. You're there for 6 months, everything's all done and you move on. Obviously, this is a perception from my experience, but I wonder if you can expand on that as well. Have you been on projects? What's a typical project? Do they extend? Maybe they always finish on time all the time? Maybe.
Ha! Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, the very nature of technology is that it's always shifting, always changing. Every project is new. So it doesn't matter how many times you could have delivered the exact same system in a very similar company with the same requirements, same expectations, and it still will be different. So a project can start off, you expect it to take 6 months, but because of the differences in how company A does finance compared to company B, that can give it an extra month. It can give it an extra 2 months. You could end up in a situation where halfway through your project, client leadership changes, and suddenly they want to take it in a different direction, and the project could shift because of that. You could get to a space where, for whatever reason, it just doesn't work. And I think depending on your level, you'll hear me say it depends, or some variation of that, about 100 times on this recording, because it is the consultant's. I think it's the consultant's access code, right? Yeah. How long is this going to take? It depends. What's the outcome going to be? It depends. But yeah, man, it really does. Everything depends on the specific variables of that one project. You could have someone, I think what else has happened? A key stakeholder just leaves. So whether that's on our side, whether it's on the client side, they're just like, yeah, I got a new job, so peace. And suddenly you're like, right, does anyone else know how to do this? Nah, cool, this is another 3 months added on. But equally, you could have a very successful project that delivers on time. You have a great relationship with the client. You hit all of the objectives, and they're like, you know what? I really appreciate you for having done this and done it so well. Because we've got a good relationship, we also wanted to look at this. Do you think you've got the skills or the team to be able to deliver this project on top of it? Or it could be, and it could be completely separate. Like one project could be looking at one specific program and delivery, and the next one could be like, yeah, we're also looking at redesigning our strategy. Do you have a team within your company that could help with that? And that's one of the benefits of working at a big company like Deloitte, is that we do have such a wide range of skills that, yeah, add-ons in completely different areas are not uncommon.
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, when it does go, like you said, that picture you're just painting now about it going perfect is a rarity in my experience, and most people's experience. Most projects are always extended. There's always a complication. But I think the important thing is companies pay consultants the big bucks because you ultimately have to be good at your job, and you have to be a problem solver. You have to solve all sorts of problems, even problems, the unknown unknowns, like problems you have no idea you have to solve, but you're going to have to solve them anyway. Why? Because you're the consultant, and that's why they pay you. That is pretty much the mindset you always have to have going into working in a project as a consultant, because like I say, you have to be good at your job, right?
You do, yeah. And I think for anyone who's studying business or management at uni, they will be familiar with the concept of I can't remember what the title is, but I call them the 4 known unknowns. So you've got the known knowns, the things you know, those like your skills, your capabilities, all of that. You have your known unknowns, which are the things you know you don't know yet. So that could just be, I know that I don't know specifically how this client uses the system. I know that I don't know that. I need to work it out. You've got the unknown knowns, which are the ones where you're like, oh, I do know that, but I didn't know that I knew it until I was asked it. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah. You call it a different thing, but I do know what that is because I've done it before. And then the biggest pool is the unknown unknowns, the things you didn't know. You can't prepare for them. You can't plan for them. You just have to wait for it to hit you and then react and respond.
Yeah. That is so well put, actually. That is so important because that's pretty much a consultant's life, like the unknown unknowns and just battling those and just making sure, you know, somehow, some way it gets done. And normally 9 times out of 10, it does get done somehow, but that's, like I say, that's why they pay consultants the big bucks, because you have to be good at your job and you have to problem solve, really, and that's really important. And I guess we've talked about a lot of good things, I guess, like you do get treated well in terms of what you're talking about, the hotels and, you know, getting to travel. And there's that upside. We've also talked about the bench and things like that. Why don't you talk about the mindset? I mean, we've touched on a few things anyway, but just to encapsulate it in this next phase of what kind of mindset do you need to have? Because, you know, a lot of people that reach out to me, like graduates and whatnot, talk about this often. And sometimes there's misconceptions on the mindset you need to have. So
Yeah.
straight question. What's the mindset you need to be a good consultant?
So I think the main one is the one that you've been repeating over and over again, that problem solver mindset. So for that, you need curiosity. You need an ability to work out your pattern. So what I love in a lot of the work I do alongside in diversity and inclusion is thinking about neurodiversity and how each of our brains works differently. So it's not necessarily about having a specific set way of thinking, but it's about understanding the way your mind works when it comes to solving problems. Are you the type of person who hits it in logical steps? You got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as you work through each one, you work out the answer. Are you the type of person who works better in pictures? So you don't need to have those numbered lists. You don't need to have it written down. But when you can see things in front of you, you're able to pull things together and work out, okay, here's the component, here's the challenge, here's the solution. Or are you the type of person who is a collaborative person? So if someone asks you to do it on your own, and you'd be lost. But the moment you're in a group, you're able to use other people's words, insights, phrasing to create the solution as well. But it is all about that problem solving mindset. Like, how do we address what we need to do? And that doesn't matter what level you're at. If I think back to when I was a analyst, a lot of my work was, okay, how do I present this information in the clearest way, right? People call that PowerPoint slide creation, but it is so much deeper than that, because all the information, all the knowledge in the world is useless if you cannot get someone else to understand it, right? So it's a skill that gets lost the further away from the detail you get. But as a analyst, a more junior person, you are closer to the detail. And so your ability to translate all of the knowledge that sits in the heads of the people trying to present the data, making sure that that actually gets passed on and received by the receivers of that presentation, is a key skill that's so important. As I look up, my skills then go to how I take my understanding and share it to people who are more junior. How do I help shape and guide more junior people on my teams in their ability to deliver messages? But then equally, how do I build people to create their career journeys and their career paths? Like, all of it is problem solving in one way or another. It's just the fine skills that sit underneath it, and being able to make sure that you understand the problem, you clearly align your problem to the solution set. And I say solution set because there's not going to be just one way of doing it. There are lots of paths. Understand the impacts of each one and what all the decisions are, and then being able to deliver on the selected solution.
Yeah, That makes sense. So great breakdown. And you touched on something when you're talking about being an advocate of neurodiversity, and you're talking about just the different ways that people can, problem solve. And, basically there's no one box really. There's different ways of going around to solve a solution. You don't have to have a single mindset being a consultant, especially, nowadays we just have more of a deep understanding of neurodiversity and the fact that things can be seen and perceived in different ways, but still effectively, solving a solution and thinking outside of the box, as it were. And what I wanted to discuss is your advocacy in neurodiversity and couple it with the fact that you do run a network within Deloitte as well, and how that all fits and blends together.
So I think I like to think of it as constantly being on a learning journey for our people. Like you say, I'm the co-chair of the Deloitte Black Network. And one of the things, I think one of the lessons I've had to learn as we moved from what was just an informal WhatsApp group chat to an official network is just how rich the diversity, even just within the Black community is. And having that understanding helps you understand how important it is to be not just an ally, but like you say, an advocate for all underrepresented groups, because no one fits in one single box, right? So if you want to be an effective leader for Black colleagues, that means you have to be an effective leader for the LGBTQ community, right? How do you advocate for them? Because Black people sit within that community too. You have to be an effective ally for disabled colleagues, people with physical, with neurological disabilities, people with neurodiversity, people who are working parents, the gender balance, right? Understanding the challenges they face and making sure that it's going to go back to the privilege word, right? Which a lot of people tend to shy away from, whether that's because they don't understand it or whether they outright disagree with it. But it's recognition of where you are not limited by a certain characteristic and using that characteristic to step into the rooms where others who are limited cannot. And not just waiting for things to go wrong, not just waiting for things to come to you, but actively going out to increase your learning, actively going out to make sure that you are as well equipped as possible to do the work you're looking to do. Like, I think the way I like to put it is everyone has a responsibility to educate themselves. No one has a requirement to teach, right? There should be no expectation on an underrepresented group to give you anything, right? So for every time we do get it, there's a gratitude that needs to be in it. But outside of it, even if you do not, it is your responsibility to continue to learn, to continue to go out of your way to make sure that you are the type of person who is an effective leader, who is an effective ally, an effective advocate.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, that was put so eloquently as well, because it is very important to be an advocate and highlight, what you were saying, like, co-leading the network and trying to highlight and tell people that, there are, diversity in thought, gender, et cetera, et cetera. It's very important to, if you're not in those rooms, to be an advocate, really. And I guess, you doing that and working, is that a challenge sometimes, being, a lead or co-lead, should I say, of a Black network, and also obviously working as a consultant, being charged with?
100%. I think we need to give a whole lot more credit to the people doing the work of network leadership. So whether you call them diversity networks or employee resource groups, whatever you call them, give them their flowers. And you know what, I'll even advocate for pay them for it, because it is a full job. There is an emotional toll that comes with it. There is the physical toll of the actual work that needs to go into organizing the group and the network. There's the mental drain, right? Because you are doing a full day's work, and then where others are able to shut down, rest, recover, you're picking straight back up and starting the second job. So yeah, it's hard. And I won't try to be a Superman and claim like it's an easy thing, but I am glad that I do it. And I'm very grateful for the people who I have on my team that give me the ability to lead it.
Yeah, no, that's what's up. And yeah, speaking as someone who also co-led previously a project and a network, it's definitely very hard, not easy as well. Definitely give the flowers and a bit more finance as well to those companies as well. Definitely worth it, because like you say, it's definitely a full-time job, man. I couldn't agree any more on that one. So yeah, it's definitely important to highlight that. But also the reason I obviously brought this up as well is just to let people know, you know, the different options you do have. So, you know, if you are joining a consultancy and you're wanting to put yourself out there, you know, try and help and all of this sort of stuff, you know, joining a network like an employee resource group, you know, definitely helps you, because you have a lot of experienced individuals who are passionate about helping and giving back. So for me, whenever someone is new joining a company, always tell them to join, you know, an ERG, so employee resource group. Make sure you're involved in activities, because honestly, that goes such a long way, not just for your own personal development, but just, you know, career-wise, everything-wise, it just really elevates yourself. So I definitely encourage you to look at that whenever you are, you know, joining these sort of firms that most do, hopefully, have some sort of group where you can actually just get support and elevate yourself. So definitely join a resource group. Definitely worth it. I can attest to that. You know, joining one and then becoming a co-lead was one of the best things I've ever done personally. So definitely do that. Before we wrap up, actually, I want to, and we've already pretty much talked about certain keywords, ask you, what are 5 either words or key phrases that are like, yeah, you're a consultant, or yeah, I recognize those buzzwords. What would you say is the top 5?
Okay, so number 1, easily, it depends. Honestly,
Yeah.
even if you don't know the answer, if you start with it depends, it takes it, it just elevates it. What we having for lunch today? You see, it depends. Suddenly, it doesn't matter what comes after it. You've hit the consultant line and they're like, oh, it depends. There's options. This person's thought it through. You don't know the answer. It depends. Number 2, I think I would say getting to know close of play. Ooh. Close of play is a mystical time period. No one really knows when it is. Is it 5 o'clock? Is it before 5 o'clock? Is it midnight? It just is some point before you start the next day. So you often get asked for work by close of play. Like I said, good luck translating it. You're better off putting a specific time, or just specify and go back and check, because nobody knows when close of play officially is. Take this offline is my number 3.
Okay, that's a good one.
Now, I do not know when it started or why, but take this offline basically is consulting speak for don't ask me that question now. We're going to talk about it later. It's the equivalent of your mom telling you, I'll talk to you when we get home, right? So you could be on a meeting and you hear, oh yeah. So I've just got this question about this specific point. Oh, sorry, we're short on time. Can we take it offline? Like, what that really meant was, why'd you ask me this in front of a company? You're embarrassing me. I'm going to talk to you later. But it also officially means, can we talk about it another time? Because we've not got time. Number 4. This is a little bit of old world, back when we were in person and on site, but it's one of my favorites. Coffee? Question mark.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you need to get a coffee. You could get a tea. You could just walk down to where the coffees are and come back up. But that in itself it's just such a versatile question, right? That one word with the question mark can mean, I see you're stressed. Should we go de-stress? That meeting went terribly. Should we go and rant about it? I'm bored. Should we go and waste some time before we get to our next meeting? Or actually coffee. I think that's the least common use of the question, but it is an option. And then number 5 for the consulting buzzwords. I think this looks great. I just have a few small changes.
Oh, okay. Yep. Tip.
Yeah. If you hear that, please understand there are not just a few small changes.
Nope.
These will take you half a day. You're probably looking at 3 or 4 more iterations before it's actually great. And it is most likely to be mentioned at about 4:59 before the deadline. So yeah, this looks great. Just want to make a few small changes.
Definitely. I mean, geez, ding, ding, ding. I would have said bingo, because all those buzzwords I've definitely used, and they've been used on me. So like, I can attest that is definitely, you are a consultant, or you've spoken to some consultants. That was good, actually. To be honest, I didn't expect that, but those are really good answers, actually. So yeah, appreciate that. And finally, just where can people reach out to you? Like, tell us, a bit about yourself. If people want to reach out, plug into all that we've talked about, maybe see some of the stuff that you're creating yourself, where can people reach out?
So you can find me on LinkedIn, Richard Babatunde Oluwaseun Odufisan. If you look for Richard Odufisan, that's Odufisan for November. You'll probably find me, or you'll find my dad, but one of us is a consultant at Deloitte, the other is a pastor. Also, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at TFTP_Tunde, TUNDE. They're public profiles, but on there I'll share some of the stuff we're doing from a diversity lens, as well as just me, just life. The username comes from our podcast. So if you're interested in podcasts, called Tales from the Plantations, that's the TFTP. Where we talk about a combination of pop culture, diversity and inclusion, and kind of general equity topics from a Black, mostly middle class lens, just accepting and agreeing where some things are fun to talk about and some things need a lens of understanding our privilege. And you can find the podcast on all good podcast apps, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the lot. We're there.
Sounds good. We will definitely put on the screen as well all of what you said as well, so people can visually see all of the places to catch you. Leave us with some final words. Anything that obviously we've discussed that you maybe want to highlight, or just it could be something completely different or random. So what are some final words? I think in everything you do, whether that is in work or in life, treat people with 3 key things. Number 1 is patience. People will take time to know what you know. Everybody's not always going to be on the same level or up to the same speed. So give people patience. Give people grace.
There are going to be times where people get things wrong. There are going to be times where people say things in the wrong way, understand things or portray things in a way that isn't quite right. We're going to need to give them the grace and give them your vulnerability. That feels really difficult to say, but vulnerability is a precursor for trust, right? Unless you are vulnerable with people, it becomes that much harder to build a system or a culture where you trust each other. But having that vulnerability and putting yourself in other people's hands, as scary as it might be, is going to get you to a space where you not only help them to succeed, but you grow even more than you would have if you didn't do those three things.
Cool, that's what's up. And just like that, people, we have finished the SkillStruct Tech Series for today. It was a pleasure having Richard on the platform. Really do appreciate your time, bro. And yeah, we'll definitely look to do something as well in the future. But yeah, people, thank you for taking the time to listen. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And we'll catch you the next time. Peace.
All right, take care.
This is a SkillStruct presentation. If you like what you hear and see, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.